Hey everybody, welcome into Ron's Reactions. This is episode 31. We are doing Smash or Pass Training Camp Buzz. As you notice, Ron is not here tonight. He is actually in the process of moving his house, and so he kind of got swamped, and so we let him off the hook for tonight. But we got Holler here with me. How's it going, man?
Good. How are you? It's
Doing
been a slow week for me, but whatever.
Yeah, man, I don't know. I got 3 little ones running around the house, so it feels like even if I have a slow week, it's never really slow. They
Yeah,
keep me busy, but
it's probably for me the calm before the storm.
yeah. So
Yeah.
you're gonna know that feeling all too well here
Yep.
soon. But so enjoy that time while you can now.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have a blind player profile to get us started off here. I can't do Ron's start me up voice quite as well as he can, so you're gonna have to just deal with me saying start me up. We have a blind player profile with 3 players here, and actually, let me just throw it up on the screen. Well, that's fine. You can this is the more important thing anyway. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see we have the players there. If you're listening on the show, I'm going to read through each player and then Holler. What I want you to do is after I read through their stats, I want you to rank them 1, 2, and 3, and then also let me know if you have any guesses on who these players are. So we will start with player A. And all these players have been in the league 3 seasons. So that's where these stats are coming from. It's their NFL careers. Player A has played in 46 games in his NFL career. He is 24 years old, averaged just south of 7 targets a game, catching a little over 4.5 of those a game, 65.83 yards per game. He's got 19 touchdowns during those 3 seasons, averaging 13.73 fantasy points per game. Player B has also played in 46 games. He is just a little older at 25. Targets just a little bit lower at 6.26. 4.2 receptions a game. 56 yards, so about 9 yards less per game. 1 less touchdown at 18 touchdowns over his 3 seasons, and 12.17 points per game. So that's about 1.5 points less than player A. And then finally, we have player C, who has played 39 games, also 25. Targets per game, just under 7, just like player A. Receptions per game, almost identical at 4.64. Yards per game, 62.5. Touchdowns, 17. And which brings you to 13.51 points per game, which is like second out of the group of 3 there. So with that being said, Holler, how do you rank those guys, and do you have any guesses on who each of them are?
Yeah. So, probably at first looking at it, I was looking at the show notes, and I didn't want to cheat, so I did not, and I was just trying to throw it in my head who these might be. And actually, what came to mind was that recently we've been chatting, and we've been moving off of T. Higgins, and so I believe player A is T. Higgins, and I believe player B is Brandon Ayuk. But I was really struggling with player C. Now, who I would want is honestly, I would want player C because he's all the targets and the receptions are the same, but he's got 7 less games and 1 less touchdown. That doesn't really mean much, but I just feel like I don't know why, but maybe because I don't know who it is, but I think I would take player C.
Very good. So player A, you did really well. Player A is
Yeah.
T. Higgins. Player B is Brandon Ayuk. And then I got a little sneaky. Player C is also Brandon Ayuk, but
wow.
What I did here was, do you remember his second season in the league? He got in trouble for missing curfew with Trey Sermon right before opening game in San Francisco and against Detroit. Well, if you remember, those first 7 games of that year, he basically didn't play, or he was on the field and he got like 2 targets, or just was basically out there to block. So what I did was I subtracted those games from his stat line, and he's basically identical to T Higgins.
Wow.
So
Yeah, so I had a
yeah.
feeling it was those two guys, but like me when you brought it up a couple, I think it was maybe like last week or something, I started to look into it more as well, and it's like they're like T Higgins is in a startup is picked in like round 3, maybe like end of round 3, round 4, and T Higgins and then Ayuk is picked like round 7, 8. So
Yeah,
the
it's
startup
crazy.
pick is way, the gap is huge. And I think also like people, there's just a much bigger name to T Higgins than it is Ayuk.
I I think a lot of it is people see T Higgins is attached to Joe Burrow and they just think,
Yeah,
oh, I want this, I want this offense. But honestly, Brandon Ayuk in the San Francisco 49ers offense, like, yeah, you don't have the Joe Burrow name being the quarterback there. They still put up a ton of points. Like
yep,
in 8 starts that Brock Purdy started last year, the San Francisco 49ers averaged over 33 points per game. So like you're putting up plenty of point totals there. And I know one of the counterpoints I've received is, oh, Brandon Ayuk kind of padded his stats while Deebo Samuel was hurt, or George Kittle's missed time. And while that's fair, the same sample size, T. Higgins got to play an entire year without Jamar Chase because he was still in college, and Jamar Chase missed like 4 or 5 games last year. So I think it's kind of negligible there. And T. Higgins is currently ranked wide receiver 12 on FantasyCalc, whereas Brandon Ayuk is down at 20. He's actually been rising a little
yeah,
bit. He was down in like the mid 20s even like this time last week, uh, which is just crazy. But
yeah. So to be honest, I think in that San Francisco offense, I would take Ayuk as the pass catcher there. And Wes says Jimmy G might be good looking, but Brock is Purdy. I love that. I love that a lot.
that's great.
And so honestly, like I don't think I know Brock Purdy's only played I think 3 or 4 games or whatever, but I think going from Jimmy G to Brock Purdy is not that much different. So that offense is gonna look like the same, right? And honestly, I think that offense ran a little bit better with Purdy than it did Jimmy G. So
It
I
was
think there's
really
going to
good.
be going to be a lot of the same there. And I mean, if I'm picking one of those pass catchers, give me Ayuk. I know Debo. Everyone likes Debo, but I think that is just because he has that rushing upside. But also that rushing upside brings injuries, and we've seen Debo get injured many times.
Yeah, I mean, I think out of the major 4 players there, Ayuk, Kittle, Debo, and CMC, like
Well,
3 of the 4 of them have had pretty significant injuries.
yeah,
So Ayuk is probably the safest. Now that I
yep.
say that, he's going to get hurt, but hopefully not, right? Hopefully he stays
I
healthy.
haven't. Well, be honest, we haven't seen. He hasn't had the injury bug, and the big thing he's got was that one. He got in trouble a little bit, but I think he's grown up.
Hmm.
He was in the doghouse, and I think he's matured a lot, and I think this could be a breakout year for him. And I've been trying to buy. I've been
Ab-
trying to buy.
Absolutely. I have also been trying to buy, and I've actually gotten quite a few deals done with
Cool.
those two. And so let me show you what I've gotten done here and see what you think. The first trade I did here, these are all 12-team leagues, standard format, PPR, tight end premium, super flex. I sent T. Higgins and Greg Dulcich for Brandon Ayuk and Deontay Johnson.
I like it.
And then the other one
I
I
like
did
that.
is I sent T. Higgins a 24-2, which hopefully is a late 2. It was my 2. And then I sent the manager's 24-3 back to him, which is probably going to be kind of an earlier 3-ish. And in
Hmm.
return, I got Joe Mixon and Brandon Ayuk.
I like it. I know a lot of people are down on Mixon, but I think it's going to be a lot of the same from him this year. And then also, Simon G. P. Ryan's not going to be there, so if he can stay on the field, he'll be pretty good, I believe.
Right. I mean, who's taking targets away from Joe Mixon,
Yeah,
or carries, I guess, or snaps, right? You
yeah,
got Chase Brown, the rookie, who I think he was a 4th-round pick or 5th round.
4th or 5th,
Escapes
yeah,
me. Yeah. And then, I mean, I think Chris Evans is still there, who's done nothing in his 2 years.
yeah,
And
yeah.
um, I think there's one other player there that his name escapes me, but I don't think he's very relevant. So
Oh, Travion, is it? It's like
Oh,
Travion something. I was gonna say
Williams.
Henderson, but that's
Yeah,
it's okay. Williams,
too
yeah,
many
yeah.
Trayvons.
Yeah. And so, I mean, we were Debbie last week, so that was in my mind. But yeah, I mean, that I like that a lot. There's upside with Mixon, and honestly, I think I don't know. Me and you might be far and away from others, but we are in on Ayuk. Travion Williams is already hurt. No, there
Well,
you go.
well,
See,
there you go.
Mixon.
Perfect. Yeah, so I think that's the takeaway there. I polled our Dynasty Theory Discord the other day, and I said, "What's the difference between T Higgins and Brandon Ayuk?" And
Saw that.
the overwhelming majority was an early second round pick. So I think any plus you can get from moving off of Higgins to Ayuk, I mean, I would just take it. The production, you're not really going to take a dip unless T Higgins magically, I don't know, becomes better than he has been, which is possible, right? But I don't know. I think Ayuk's been getting a ton of training camp buzz. Like on Twitter recently, Brandon Ayuk, it's like every report at a 49ers camp, if it isn't about the quarterbacks, is about how good Brandon Ayuk has looked. So I think he's in store for major things this year. All right. Well, that being said, let's hit the news. Um, First, probably the biggest piece of news that we have here is Jonathan Taylor. This whole saga he's got going on, right? So walking through the timeline here, reportedly he asked for about $16 million. They said no way. Then he asked for a trade. Somewhere in there, also Jonathan Taylor met with Jim Irsay on a luxury bus, which that conversation clearly didn't go well because then it came out that he wanted a trade. Jim Irsay is saying we're not trading you. We're also not going to pay you, so you need to get your butt on the field. Meanwhile, Zach Moss broke his arm and he's out for 6 weeks. It's just a mess, dude. So what do you got? What do you got going on with JT?
I think I was muted there. That was embarrassing.
No worries. Well, we were just talking about Jonathan Taylor. So what what are you making of the whole Jonathan Taylor situation? Is his dynasty value going up, down, staying the same? Are you panicking, trading him away, doing anything?
I don't know what's going on. I can't hear.
Okay.
This is insane.
Well, here, I'll just keep talking. If you want to try to leave the room and come back to try to get your audio
We're
back
good.
in. Oh, you're good? Okay, cool. All right, third time's the charm. What do you make of the Jonathan Taylor situation? So I kind of walked through the timeline. I would like that. Yeah.
It depends on the day, to be honest. I mean, I saw some videos or on Twitter that he was I think Cole posted it in the Discord, and I saw him walking, and that didn't look so good. But he came out and said that he wasn't injured. So I don't know, and you never know what Irsay is going to do. So honestly, I think what would be best for both parties if you were to get traded, but I think it's going to be hard for teams to trade for him. And so it just, I think at the end of the day, he's going to end up playing in Indianapolis this year.
I think he does too. Do you think I don't think he ever like practices in training camp. I think he'll magically be back healthy. That ankle
Yep.
injury is going to magically heal itself probably right around week 1. I've seen a lot of, and Wes brought this up in the chat. I've seen a lot of some rumors going around that Kansas City wants to trade for him.
Yep.
Kind of making up for their mistake back in the draft when they took Clyde Edwards-Helaire over him to begin with.
That would be insane to me. I mean, that would be super good for JT. That would be super good for the Chiefs. I just, like I said before, I just don't know how that all works out with the trading him and both sides coming together, because Irsay is going to want a bunch for him, and so Kansas City doesn't really. I know they traded away Tyreek Hill, but I just don't. To me, I don't think that's going to happen, but it would be awesome.
No, I don't think it happens either, but it would be fun for fantasy purposes. I think that would be like an insane offense, and you might as well just give them the Super Bowl now. I feel like if that happens. Right. I did move Jonathan Taylor recently, just like right after this news came out. It was kind of unrelated to the news, but I figured it was a decent time. I traded him for Kenneth Walker, and I also got Rashad Bateman. This is kind of it was a little bit of context there is a little bit of a deeper league. I kind of am starting to view Jonathan Taylor and Kenneth Walker more similar-ish, and so
Yeah.
getting the plus of Bateman, who I don't necessarily love, but I think there's some upside there,
Yeah.
was worth kind of making the move and getting the extra depth.
Yeah, I'm like throwing a, I don't know. Some days I like Bateman, some days I don't. It will just depend. I mean, he's got the injury bug galore, so that one really depends. But it's the receivers are wide open there in Baltimore, so I think that's a solid upside play. That I worry a little bit with Kenneth Walker. We'll hit it in a second here, but with him getting injured, but I don't think his injury is a big deal coming in. Like he's going to miss time in training camp, but to me, it's not a big deal. He misses time in training camp. He was doing really well at the end of last season. He knows the playbook now, and so I think he'll be fine. So honestly, with the uncertainty with JT, I like that. I like that trade. Is that 14 team or
It's
just
a
12 team but deeper league?
It's a 12 team, but it's deeper. Like you start 3 running backs and 4 wide receivers, and then there's a points per carry aspect of it as well.
Cool. Yeah, then I mean, I'm with you a little bit. There's more upside with JT, obviously. I mean, but who knows if he'll get back to that point, right? And then Kenneth Walker, we love what we've seen out of him. I depending on the day with me is if I feel like Sharps is going to take it away or not. I mean, I think so. That kind of leads us into our next.
Yeah, I mean, I think you kind of hit on both of them, but so they're both injured, right? The Seahawks running back room is like a graveyard. Kenneth Walker suffered a groin injury and he's out, quote, a while. And Zach Charbonnet messed up his shoulder and he's out indefinitely, which doesn't sound great. So
No.
that makes it seem like he's going to miss like legitimate time. Kenneth Walker, I feel like he'll be back week 1.
Yeah.
But
so kind of like what I said earlier is I believe Kenneth Walker will be back, in the game 1, and I don't think it's a huge deal for him to be missing time, but I do think it's a pretty big deal for Charbs to be missing time. And obviously we all are it's kind of we didn't know exactly what to expect from him coming in as the RB2 already. Kenneth Walker's there, and so I just think for the most part, out of these two, the biggest thing by far is Charbs getting hurt because he needs to be playing. He needs to be on the field. He needs to be getting more reps with that offense in order for him to kind of show the coaching staff that they want to keep him on the field.
Yeah, I think the biggest bummer is for Charbonnet. I think
Yeah.
I mean, it already takes rookies a little bit to kind of get up to speed. He was already fighting an uphill battle being behind Kenneth Walker, and now he's missing, training camp where he can learn the offense. He's probably going to miss some game time, and then we probably won't see any meaningful snaps for him till probably later in the season. So, if you have Zach Charbonnet, I mean, are you trying to sell him? Or are you trying to just get out for equal value, or you just holding and you're just along for the ride and hope it doesn't burn out in flames?
I feel like right now you'd have to hold because you're most likely gonna lose because no one's gonna. If anything, you're gonna at least get what you paid for basically at end of the first, early second. A lot of times I was seeing early second. So, I mean, if you could, I would assume like non-playoff teams would not sell a second for Charbonnet, and so I think it'd be very hard to trade him. And so if you were trading him now, maybe you would need to get back a younger wide receiver that hasn't kind of maybe another rookie wide receiver that you may want to just try to flip. But honestly, I think what would be best is just hold him right now.
I think so too. I don't think you're going to get any like your return on investment there.
Yeah.
I think you're taking a loss, and I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm stubborn, but I feel like if I'm going to take a loss, I'm just going to ride it into the ground and just take a full L as opposed to take a minimal loss.
Yeah,
so.
And I think more will come out, so it'll be interesting to see. But it does, like first glance, it does seem like he's going to be missing time, especially into the beginning of the season. I hope not. I don't have a ton of shares, but I'm a kind of like a homer, obviously, because he played it when at the school that I worked for a little bit. So I have high hopes for him, but we'll see. I think it really will depend in the next couple of weeks to see what they say.
Yeah, something to keep an eye on for sure. Probably the biggest news that happened last week, and I think everyone was freaking out, was when Joe Burrow got injured in camp. He kind of rolled out to his right and then came up lame, and people were like, "Oh man, was that his Achilles?" Turns
Yeah.
out just a calf strain.
Yep.
So it sounds like he's going to be out for several weeks, but he should be ready to go week 1. I don't think this is like a huge issue, but I did want to point out this is so Joe Burrow. He's going into his 4th year. He's never had a normal training camp in his entire career. So his rookie year was 2020, which was the COVID year, right? 2021, he was coming off the ACL injury, so he was getting work back into that. And then last year, if you remember, he had that appendectomy
Yeah.
like a couple weeks into training camp, and so he missed now he's going to miss all of training camp again with the calf strain.
I feel like next year he should just not. I mean, just
sit
don't
him
even
out.
put anything. Yeah, don't do nothing in the training camp.
Just wrap him in bubble wrap and don't let him do anything. But the point from that was he actually has kind of started out pretty slow.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna avoid his rookie year because he was a rookie, so I don't want to hold that against him. But 2021, coming off the ACL injury, he didn't have a 300-yard passing game until week 4. And then last year, if you remember, he had that nightmare of a 4-interception game week 1 against the Steelers, and then he followed it up with a 190-yard passing performance against the Cowboys in week 2. So while I'm not panicking, if you just know that he might not be, Joe Burr the first couple weeks of the season.
Yeah.
It might take him a minute to get ramped up just because you do got to shake the rust off a little bit.
Yeah. I've always felt like Joe Burrow's more of a not your like crazy fantasy QB. I mean, he's top 10, of course, top 8, top 6, I'd even say. But I always feel like, I could pick other quarterbacks, and then there's other quarterbacks that could easily jump him in the fantasy realm, right?
Sure.
So someone like Justin Fields, someone like Trevor Lawrence, someone like I think those would be kind of the two that I think that could basically take a leap forward. But at the end of the day, it's just I think most people would feel much more comfortable going with Joe Burrow just because we've seen it from him. But to me, it's telling me that there's always like that little bit of pause.
There is a little bit, and I think sometimes too, you get caught up in the receivers in that offense. Yeah. Jamar Chase is kind of the flashy thing. Joe Burrow's great. Like I have him. I think let me pull up my rankings before I just say it. Yeah, I have him as my QB4 right now, so I'm really high on Burrow.
Yeah,
but there is like, while he's athletic, he doesn't have quite the mobility that like Jalen Hurts, like Lamar does, or Justin Fields, obviously. And I think sometimes as a fantasy manager, you get attracted to that rushing upside, right? But
yeah. Oh, let me see who. So you have him 4th. I probably would put him more like, I mean, honestly, splitting hairs, but I'd probably put him at 5. And so you have. Oh, so I guess you have the main big one is Lamar Jackson that you have lower. I feel like Lamar Jackson is going to have a good year.
I do too. I think Lamar's in for a great year, but he's just been injured a lot. I mean, Burrow has been hurt a little bit, but he hasn't missed a ton of like game time. He's missed like practice time. So.
And also, there's so much drama with Lamar Jackson. Like I feel like what you're gonna get with Joe Burrow, and like there's many times that you don't know exactly what you're gonna get from Lamar Jackson.
That's fair. Although Lamar did sign that deal now, so hopefully that's all that's behind him. But
that's what I feel like this year's gonna be pretty good for him. New OC.
Yeah, I think he's in for a treat. The other thing, Cooper Kupp here. Next piece of news: Cooper Kupp. He pulled his hammy in. He got his hammy done. I guess the whole reporting of this was kind of weird. They were like, he could potentially be back for scrimmages in a few weeks, but he should be ready for week 1. And I don't entirely know what that. So I'm kind of wondering if this was the regular season, would he be out there next week? I kind of feel like he would be.
Yeah.
But they're being overly cautious.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I think they're being overly cautious, which is good, right? He's coming off of an injury last year. Obviously, it's a different injury, but I just think he's getting older. I think he's kind of like their whole offense, right? And so I think they need to be overly cautious with him because it's the Rams. They're gonna play hard. They're gonna try to win as many games as they can. They're not giving up. So they want him out there. They want him playing every week.
That's their whole offense.
Yeah,
who? I mean, If you're a defensive coordinator going up against the Rams, I think you circle where Cooper Cup's going to be, and then after that, it's like, well, if these guys beat
Yeah.
me, so be it. Like you got Cam Akers, Tyler Higbee, you got your boy Puka Nakua out there,
Yep.
Van Jefferson. It's a whole lot of just eye candy outside of
Yeah.
Cooper Cup, right? Like
I know. I feel like probably the upside play right now would be to just try to grab some more Van Jefferson, because obviously Puka's a new, rookie guy. But I'm not saying like have somebody that's really good, but I just think, we'll see. I got to see it first. It'll be interesting to see some of these preseason games and see if Jefferson does anything at all. But who knows? Maybe he's just another guy. I'm assuming he's just another guy.
yeah, Van Jefferson has his moments. I don't know if he's anything more than just like an occasional deep threat.
Yeah.
And the other thing with the Rams is that like they don't play their players in the preseason, so we probably won't know what's
Yeah,
happening.
that's true.
Like if anyone's like even like projected to be starting, like they don't sniff the field in the preseason.
Yeah, that's true.
So I don't know. This offense is weird to me because you got Cooper Cup coming off of an injury, and then he hurts his hamstring in training camp. Then you got Matthew Stafford who's coming off. I mean, he's had like his elbow's been messed up for like 2.5 years now.
Yep.
This whole thing just feels like there's
Yeah.
there's a hole on the boat and you're just trying to like duct tape it together so you don't start
That's such a
sinking.
good analogy. Oh my gosh. I feel like they're like a bad streak away from just blowing it up. But I just have a hard time thinking they do that because of Sean McVay and the way their GM is and everything. So we'll see. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean they got their Super Bowl, right? They traded away
Yeah.
all their picks and they signed all these vets, and so they got it, but now they're kind of laying in the bed they made, right? With
Yep.
no cap space and a bunch of bad contracts.
Yeah. Les Snead. He's an interesting guy.
Well, he won, so I'll give him
Yeah.
that.
It worked out we'll see. Our
The
last one.
Yeah, the last piece of news here. So, this kind of surprised me a little bit. So, Alvin Kamara, I guess he met with Roger Goodell today, actually, and now there's reporting saying that he's expected to get a suspension. I kind of thought that going in like so late that they wouldn't suspend him until next year, but now it sounds like suspension is pretty probable, and
Yeah.
I've heard rumors of it being 2 games, 4 games, or 6 games. So it could really kind of be anywhere. What are you doing with Alvin Kamara?
So I think we talked about it last week or the week before, and for me, he is a buy because I think once that the number of games come out, especially so he's a buy. Let me rephrase: he's a buy for if you're a contender.
Right.
Okay, and I figured that was probably but for me, if he's going to be, let's say 4 games, then I think he's going to be pretty cheap, right? And I think you'd be fine with that. I think if your team's good, you're going to be able to be good without him. And then if you add him to your team, boom, your team's going to be even better. And then kind of like a redraft, I think he's still good in redraft, and I was able to get him later in a couple of my redrafts. And so and they have Jamal Williams, so I think that offense is still going to be okay in those first couple weeks. Maybe Kendre Miller sees the field a little bit more. I think that will be. I think we'll see a little bit more through the preseason. But I really think with him once the number of games come out, I think that's going to be. I think somebody said in the Discord that I think he's going to be a little bit cheaper.
I think so too. I mean, he was already fairly
Yeah.
cost effective, right? I think one move, and I just kind of had a thought here, so I haven't. This is just on the fly, so I haven't flushed this out. But thinking about, you mentioned if you're a contender, you can buy him. Well, what if you're rebuilding? You can get him for super cheap. Hold him. Let's say he gets suspended 6 games. Hold him the first 5, and then right before he gets back on the field, you trade him again to try to get some extra assets. That way, you could kind of get 5 weeks of no points, and then try to get like recoup what you traded for him, and then hopefully you could get a little plus because now he's back on the field.
Yeah, I think I like that. It just would depend on what you're selling for him. I mean, if you're selling it, probably if you can sell it at early third, say your team is not that good, and so if you early third, then I think that's not bad. But part of me is like, well, I'll keep that third because you never know if someone's going to buy him back, right? And so you might have to wait a week or two and make sure he has 2 good games and then sell him. But contenders are always looking to buy.
Yeah, I think now in the offseason, the mindset is always like, oh, like veterans, whatever, you might not be able to sell them, and that's true. But as soon as people are on the field and points are being scored, and all of a sudden
Yeah,
you're like, hey, I'm third in points scored. If I can just get Alvin Kamara, like I got this
yeah,
championship in the bag. What do you want for him? I'll give you anything you want.
yeah.
And so it's
That's it.
definitely something to keep in mind.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's a really good thought process of maybe, hey, I'll grab him. He's not gonna hurt me with points. So I really think that one depends on what you're giving up for him.
Yeah, for sure. I think for that specific scenario to work, it would have to be like your third, and then maybe you could do like maybe you could do like a second round pick a year out, so not 24 pick, but a 25 second round pick.
Yeah,
It just I don't know. We'll see.
yeah. I think that's like the toughest way to send, because you don't want to send any of your picks because your team's not going to be very good. So even that's early second round, 24 is not the best, but I just feel like early second round you still can grab somebody that's going to be serviceable.
For sure, it's definitely a little bit risky, and like I
Yeah,
mentioned, that was kind of just a thought that came into mind while we were
yeah,
talking about it. So not fully fleshed out yet. I'll have to put some
yeah.
more
No,
thought
I
into
mean, I
that
think
one.
it's worth a shot.
All right. That concludes the news. We actually had a lot of news this week.
That was
I
good.
mean, players are back on the field, so that always helps. So we're gonna do a new segment here. Every year in training camp, there's a bunch of hype pieces that get put out on Twitter. Right, every beat writer saying, "Oh, this player's in the best shape of their life," or like this player can do no wrong. And every time you look up, this player's busting out a huge highlight. Right. So this segment here is called Smash or Pass. So we're gonna go over some different situations that we've been monitoring, kind of see what people are saying, and then we can decide whether we're buying into that hype or if we're maybe fading the situation. So we'll kick it off with San Francisco 49ers quarterback room. This is a pretty hotly contested one. I
Oh yeah.
am always surprised at how much people still love Trey Lance, but
Oh,
I'll get your opinion on that as well. So it seems like the practice reports right now have been that Brock Purdy's kind of rolling with the ones, and that Sam Darnold even has been kind of mixing in with the twos, and Lance are kind of going back with it between the twos and the threes. So what do you make of this situation?
so it's pretty funny for me. I'm going a total 180. I used to like Trey Lance. I used to be in on him, and then over this last, would say like the off season, I've been trying to sell him as much as I can. And so I'm kind of out on him, especially because he hasn't played. This his whole football career has been weird. And so I know it's hard to not buy into the I guess we'll say hype, but not buy into the blurbs. And if you're not beating out Sam Darnold, you're having an issue. So that's my biggest takeaway. I mean, I don't know if they're just bringing him in, like easing him in or whatever, but I think this is Brock Purdy's team, and I have a feeling that's if he doesn't play in Week 1, I think Sam Darnold's more of the type of player that Brock Purdy is. Just a game manager, not the best game manager, but that's what I think. I think Lance is. They're gonna. I think they need to trade him, but who knows if that's going to happen. But he's got to do a lot in order for him to be on the field.
Yeah, that's actually what I put in my notes here. I was saying if Trey Lance gets on the field, it's something went horribly wrong in San
Yeah.
Francisco. The training camp news I saw here was a practice report from yesterday. It said Brock Purdy's Christmas performance of the 49ers camp so far. He made big throws, including like a beautiful end zone corner to Jawan Jennings. And he was the only quarterback that got to work with a first team defense. I am smashing Brock Purdy here.
Yep.
I actually made a trade for him the other day in a 14-team league with Dan from Dynasty Theory. Basically, we swapped Brock Purdy, and I sent him Desmond Ridder for Purdy, and then I also got Joe Mixon in return for, I think it was James Cook, and then there were some smaller pieces in the deal too that kind of evened it up. But man, I was happy to get out of Desmond Ridder, and I think Brock Purdy. I know it's easy to get caught up on the draft capital because he has like none. He was the last pick, but he's just good. He just fits that offense, and I mean, the 49ers defense last year, they allowed the fewest points in the NFL last season. So like they have a Super Bowl roster. They're in a win now mode. Brock Purdy has already shown that he could take them deep into the playoffs. Trey Lance and shout out to JB from Dynasty Theory last night. He was saying that Trey Lance has thrown less than 500 passes since high school. So like he doesn't have time. The 49ers don't have time to let him learn how to be a quarterback.
Yep.
Like they need someone that can win. So give me all the Brock Purdy's.
Yep. Same here. I'm smashing the Brock Purdy.
All right. A practice report from today out in New England. This is Ron's guy. So
That's what I was gonna say.
So sad that he's not here to give us some positive Mac Jones news. But Mac Jones was 13 for 14, connected with Devontae Parker and Juju Smith-Schuster for a pair of red zone touchdowns today. Are you smashing Mac Jones, or are you gonna pass?
I'm gonna pass. I don't even feel comfortable if he was my. The problem is he's probably a solid football QB, right? But he's not somebody that I want on my fantasy team, right? If I need to slide him in for one of my bye weeks, okay. Hopefully, my other players have a great game. But I just feel like overall that offense is going to be a run, in my opinion, run first, because it has been for the most of the part with that's how. But I know Bill O'Brien's coming in, so it'll be interesting to see. It's not a. I know this is kind of Bill being Bill, but it's not always a good thing if your head coach is not already confident in saying that he's not our QB. I'm sure he's just trying to light a fire under him and have him working hard and everything. And I know Mac Jones will be the starting QB. But just overall, I'm passing on Mac Jones.
Yeah, I'm also passing. I'm less concerned about Bill Belichick's comments. I think he's just a grumpy old man, so it is what it is. But I think the thing with Mac Jones, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head there. He's more of I don't even know if he's like a good real life quarterback. He's an okay. I think he's honestly like the new generation of Andy Dalton, what he was. He's fine and he can make some throws and he might win you some games, but he's not going to take you beyond like the wild card round in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, and I mean, I'm assuming that's why Bill Belichick said that, is like obviously Bill wants to win, right? And so, but I don't think Zappy's the one that's going to take them anywhere either. So I think they're just kind of in a blessed situation, and for fantasy terms, I'm passing 100% on Mac Jones.
Same. All right, let's move on to some wide receivers here. Jameson Williams, he's been kind of a whirlwind this offseason, right? So you kind of he got injured, in his college career in the championship game, and then he missed most of last year, and he came back, and then he caught that big touchdown, then he did nothing. And then everyone's like, okay, we're going to have, a full offseason. He's going to be ready to go. And then he gets suspended 6 games for gambling on not NFL games, but like college games, but on an NFL. It was a whole weird thing. And then you get into camp, he gets hurt. And then we had Dan Campbell said this today. He's just got to grind on it. It'll never be probably like one of those elite pass catches that you've ever seen, but it'll be just fine. With his speed, he should be able to do what he needs to do. Not exactly like the best vote of confidence there. So are you smashing or passing on Jameson Williams right now based on what we're seeing?
I'm still smashing Jameson Williams. He's got so much ability. He's got so much speed. There's a lot of hurdles, but I just feel like you like good players, right? And so I think he is a good football player and a good wide receiver. And so I don't know if it's just I've kind of fell in love with Jameson Williams in that before like his last year of college. But I mean, to me, I think he's going to have ups and downs, but it's the biggest. I think the biggest setback for him was getting that suspension, right? Because I think if he were to come in right first game of the season, have those extra games, I think over the course of the whole season, I think he's going to, be a solid, I would like to call it like a WR3, right?
Man, I think, and I'm glad Ron's not here because he would yell at me. I think I'm passing, man. I think I'm almost out on Jameson Williams. the profile is starting to scare me a little bit. There's like the guys who have such like a rough start to their NFL career, even if they were like a first round pick, where it just takes so long to get onto the field and have meaningful snaps. Like the further that is delayed from the time you were drafted, it just doesn't seem like it works out that well. And I know he has elite speed, but maybe that's all he is. Maybe he's just
Yeah.
gonna be like a deep threat that in the same way that like I don't want to say Van Jefferson because that feels disrespectful, but I also don't. Maybe like a lesser version of Deshaun Jackson.
Yeah, that's kind of who I was thinking is just Deshaun Jackson. That's still rough for me to say that, but if the more I think about it, that's kind of what it is. But I'm still in on Jameson, and I need to be more proved wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we'll get to see. So this year, I think this time next year, we'll know probably for sure he's either going to be awesome and he's going to be like just busting up dynasty rankings, or he's going to be like gone the way of Jalen Reagor and just dead on people's rosters.
Yep, 100%.
Next guy here, Tyreek Hill. So he's had kind of interesting offseason as well.
Yeah.
So the first note here, we have kind of a tale of two Tyreek Hills. The first one was basically it looks like Hill has lost his superpowers. He's had a ton of drops and he looks slow. The next tweet, this is from today, says Tyreek Hill is unguardable in one-on-ones. So I don't know if the offseason stuff kind of distracted him. He got off to a rough start in camp, and now he's back. He is getting a little bit older. If he loses some of his quickness, that might be problematic because that's kind of primarily how he wins. What do you think? Are you going to smash or pass Tyreek?
I still got to smash Tyreek. When he gets on the field and on a Sunday, he puts up numbers, right? And it's also really good to have Waddle as your counterpart, right? And two is a good quarterback, and so I think this is kind of like your fun, like what we like talk about with just blurbs. They're trying to write something, right? And I know maybe he's starting out slow. He's got a lot of extra baggage, I feel like, but on Sunday, he puts up numbers. And so for me, I don't have a lot of Tyreek because unfortunately don't have a lot of winning rosters, but he's like somebody I love in redraft. I would like to say I'm much better redraft than I am Dynasty. And so he's somebody I really love in redraft. And so I'm not too worried about the blurbs. I think those guys are trying to keep their job and just write out kind of things that they want to get, buzz.
I think so too. I think that was for clout, as the kids say.
Yeah.
I'm still gonna smash Tyreek Hill. He's probably one of the top 5 or 6 real life NFL wide receivers in the NFL right now. He has crazy speed. Pair that with Jalen Waddle on the other side, who's also really fast. I think he's got a couple good years left in him. I'm not worried.
Yeah. What I'm worried more about is I think if I remember, I saw something. I'm sure this is the same thing. It's just kind of blurred, but he wants to retire in 25. And so
I thought after the 25 season, right? So he was saying he had 3 more years.
Yeah. So, that's still, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head how old he is. So, I mean, that's probably, but if someone like that, you would
29
think,
right now.
Okay. So that's about right. But I don't know. If someone's already thinking about when they're retiring, sometimes that always is just a little bit of,
a little red flag there.
Yeah.
For sure, something to keep an eye on, right? If you start to see any signs of decline this year, I mean, he's already 29. This, next offseason, he's going to be 30. It's going to be impossible to move him if he struggles at all this year, right? Yep. So just keep.
Yeah, if you're not contending, move that guy now. I feel like because he's at this like the highest point you're going to get return. So I think obviously if you at the middle of the season, if your team's not going the right way you want it to, and he's playing really well, you're still going to be able to move him for a good return. But I just feel like kind of like what you just said, end of next season, maybe some more baggage comes around, another thing happens and his value could tank.
Agreed. All right. Next up here, we have another rookie. It seems like all the Twitter hype is all about the rookies, right?
Yeah.
Jalen Hyatt has video game speed. He was reportedly clocked at running 24 miles per hour which is insane. I think I saw a stat that was like Tyreek Hill had the fastest time last year. It was like 22.4 or something. So this dude's just absolutely hauling.
Yep.
And then one of the things I thought was interesting, they call Jalen Hyatt a route artist, which I actually was really surprised by that because at Tennessee, he basically just ran go routes.
Yeah.
So the fact that he
I
is actually
remember.
running a route tree is interesting.
Yeah, I remember Tillman was more the route guy, right? And so,
Mhm.
that one I saw when I was looking at the show doc today is like, oh, interesting. I thought he was more of the go route guy, just the speed guy. So that would be interesting. They can probably put him inside and outside, right? And so I'm still on the fence with Hyatt, to be honest. Like I'm not smashing or passing because I have a hard time passing on rookies, obviously, especially I really like rookie wide receivers. And so I think, what I think upside he has is going to help him a lot, especially because New York doesn't really have any like bona fide pass catchers, right? And so I think Darren Waller's there. He's going to be their number one guy. And then, in wide receivers terms, I think if he's we need to see a little bit more out of his other than his speed.
Sure. I think I'm kind of in that same boat. I think I'm a hold. So
Yeah,
to kind of break the rules of the game, I'm a hold as opposed to a smash or
yeah,
pass. And then just to follow up, he ran primarily in the slot at Tennessee. His whole time there,
that's right.
his whole splits, he was 88% in the slot compared to only 12 out wide. So he's basically a slot receiver, which tracks with what New York is doing. So Darren Waller is essentially the glorified, wide receiver one there, even though
Yeah.
he plays tight end.
Yep. And so we'll see. I mean, there is a pathway for Hyatt to be their number one wide receiver. I don't know if he can do that, but time will tell.
All right. The last wide receiver I have on the show, Doc, Elijah Moore. It seems like every time I open up Twitter, I am greeted by an Elijah Moore highlight. And man, I don't know. I was pretty out on Elijah Moore, but I think I'm starting to smash. I don't know if the Twitter machines just just brainwashing me into this, but I keep seeing it. He looks good. He had a good profile coming out of college. The Jets have ruined good players before, so it's not out of this world. I think the Browns are going to be a better offense this year, and I think he might be a big part of it.
I'm still passing, to be honest. I don't know if I just got burned, not necessarily burned by him, but just seeing so much with the Jets. I know the Jets burn players, and so I don't know. I'm not buying into the Twitter hype yet. I'd rather be late on him than or not late, but like miss out on him than try to go out and buy right now. And so I just think I feel comfortable passing on him.
That's fair. I've been trying to buy him in situations where I think I am a playoff team, but not quite a championship team. But I've been trying to
Yeah,
send my second round pick, and man, I think that the hype's getting out of control a little bit because I use all declines. Like I can't get anything.
interesting.
People want more.
Yeah,
I think people are really wanting to cash out with a first round pick for him, and I'm not quite there yet.
no,
But
don't do it. Hold
uh,
strong. Hold
yeah,
strong.
I know. This happens every year. There's always guys that start
Yeah.
rising up, and you overpay for a first, and you look back and you're like, well, crap. So
I think there's just a lot of not a lot, but there's good players there in Cleveland, and so I just think he could be the third option, right? I mean,
yeah,
I'm assuming he'll be him and Njoku might be 2A and 2B,
I think
right?
so.
But obviously Amari Cooper's number one. Then if you think about kind of the offense, how it goes, maybe then Nick Chubb doesn't catch many passes, but I know I've heard a little bit that they want to get him more involved. And so, you never know. I just think there's not a clear path for him to be this really good WR3. So I think if you are on that cusp of, comfortable playoff team trying to win and you put him in a flex spot, and I think he's going to have some good boom games.
The one point I'll add to that is there's always the concern playing in Cleveland. As much as you
Yep.
want to throw the ball, the weather there gets just god awful like late November through January. So there's a decent chance that as much as you want to throw the ball, you're gonna have to just pound the rock like 30 times with Nick Chubb,
Yeah.
and the passing volume's not gonna be great. So that's kind of where I'm not allowing myself to go higher than like a mid-second at the moment.
Yeah. Stay strong.
We'll see what
But
happens.
I think he'll easily, beat out Donovan People-Jones.
Yeah, DPJ is just a
There. I
guy.
think, yeah, he's just another guy, and so I think he'll easily beat him out. And so I think it's going to be him and Cooper and Elijah Moore on the field, a lot. But I do know that they like to spread the field out a little bit, so I think TPJ is going to be on the field as well. So maybe Elijah Moore might start a little slow because he's new to the team. We'll see. But I think, especially kind of like what you said earlier, if you're on the cusp of a good playoff team and you're trying to go for the win, I think if you put him in as you even maybe like your second flex position, then you're in good shape.
For sure. All right, let's move on to some running backs here. The first one, Javonte Williams. This one's kind of crazy to me because he had like an ACL and an MCL there, and he's been training really hard, and he's supposed to have like a day off, I think today, but he told the trainers, no, I'm not doing that. I'm putting the pads on. I'm going to practice, and he did, which is both like exciting but also very concerning that
Yeah.
he's like, you don't want to rush back and get re-hurt and further set yourself back. So I have some thoughts on this, but I want to get yours first. Are you gonna smash or pass on Javonte?
I'm gonna pass because I worry that he's coming into it a little too fast, a little too hot, right? I do like how Sean Payton uses his running backs, but I just feel like when you're running back to get 100%, like all in, I feel like that's, it's possible that you could re-injure yourself.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass as well, but I think mine is more geared towards looking back at previous running backs coming back from ACL tears. Really, the only one I can think of that came back and was just like dominant right away was Adrian Peterson.
Yeah.
Everyone else, it took them quite a while to get back. So let's say even if it sounds like he's going to be ready to go week one, and he's already practicing with the pads on, but being active on game day and getting, let's call it 60-70% of the snaps is a different story. And I think
Yep.
it's going to take him quite a while, probably till about like late October, before he's in a position where he's going to be like the lead back. So I think they're going to lean on Samaje Perine early in the season. And so
Yeah.
the hype train's going off the rails. Like, people are just crazy on Javonte Williams right now. I think it's probably a good opportunity to try to sell him if you would.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking as well. Like, and I don't think, I personally wouldn't want to buy because people are going to want top dollar for him right now because all the news coming out is all positive, all positive, all positive. He's going to be back week one, and a lot of people are thinking, oh, he'll be back week one. Hit the ground running, and so I'm with you. I just worry, coming back from that ACL and MCL, I just worry how good he's going to be week one.
All right, let's move on to the Dolphins running back situation. You got three guys there. You got Devin Achane, Raheem Mostert, and Jeff Wilson. I haven't seen a ton of hype around a lot of them. I've seen a few things about Achane being a good like pass catcher out of the backfield. I don't
Kind
think
of knew
Jeff
that
Wilson's.
already.
But yeah, exactly. I don't think Jeff Wilson's been. I think he's been at camp, but he hasn't necessarily been practicing. And then Raheem Mostert, I've seen a couple clips of him, running, but at the same time, he's also 31. Do you think? I'll ask you: are you going to smash or pass on any of these guys? But I think, is this going to be one of those situations where you have three guys and the running backs themselves, like if you combined all of their stats, is going to be awesome, but because they spread it out across all three of them, you're not going to want any of them, like, to start any of them.
Yeah, so I don't. I'm still smashing Achane because I think over like long term he's going to be. Now I wouldn't say he's going to be the guy, but once Mostert and Jeff Wilson are on their way, I think they are both there for one more year. I would say. I think Achane's going to cement himself as that pass catching back and the one that's going to make plays, right? And so I think this year, though, they're going to kind of all cancel each other out, like you just said. And it's really going to be depend on if you pick the right one to have that touchdown or to have that big run. I think A-Chain's going to get his points by taking the ball and breaking it, right? And so I have a hard time feeling comfortable putting any of those guys in my roster or in my lineup because I think they're just going to kind of cancel each other out.
Agreed. I think if you want A-Chain, which I'm still pretty high on him, I
Yeah.
think the time to acquire him isn't now. I think it's like midway through the season when
Yep.
he's just kind of putting up just kind of ho-hum pedestrian kind of numbers. Just knowing that this time next year, I mean, Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert, I think they're like 29 and 31 respectively. So it could be A-Chain's backfield next year.
Yeah. And I don't know if he can take on the whole backfield, right? But not many. The way the NFL, the landscape of the NFL is like, there's not many that are like, the whole package, right? And so I think A-Chain next year is going to be a lot more. And so I think if you can wait it out a little bit, if you have him, hold him for sure. If you can go and buy him maybe in week 4 or 5 when he only puts up like on an average of 3 receptions, maybe 30 yards, maybe 8 carries for 20 yards or something like that, a total of like 40 to 50 yards, then I think you can buy him at a pretty decent price.
That's what I'm hoping, at least. All right, I got one more running back here. It's Samir White.
Oh, geez.
I threw him on the show, Doc, just because, man, I don't know. So some of his teammates have basically been saying that he's been super eager to learn. He's packed on some muscle. He's looking good. What do you think here? Smash or pass on old Zeus boy?
I'm gonna pass. I just think at the end of the day, I think I know people are still up in the air, but I think Josh Jacobs will be playing. I think they'll work it out. That's maybe just like my homer because I have some Josh Jacobs. I have him in a keeper league that I play in my family, and so I just I have a feeling at the end of the day. I think I saw a tweet that said that the Raiders and Josh Jacobs might get back together and talk again, and so I just think at the end of the day, we still got some time. I think Josh Jacobs will play. I think Zamir White will be another guy, right? And so good for him, working hard. We love to see that.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass as well. And that you actually touched on the point I wanted to bring up, which I thought was funny. So after the Raiders' first day of padded practice, all of a sudden a report comes out saying that the Raiders are willing to, work with Josh Jacobs again and see if they can't figure out a deal. It's like, oh, it was that bad, huh? You realized you might need him. You might need your best player. So, well, I guess.
So I just, I have a feeling that's going to get worked out, and if it doesn't, I don't really want any of those running backs. I think they're just going to be able to get the offense moving. That I don't want any of them really. I would hope that you don't have to put any of those guys in your lineup. I don't think any of them are going to put up enough points for you to feel comfortable with that. And so, like I said before, good for him for working hard, putting on some muscle.
Yeah. All right. So I got one last guy here, and then we'll get out of here. At the tight end position, Dalton Kincaid.
Oh,
I think it's probably a tie between like Elijah Moore and Dalton Kincaid highlights of what's just I'm seeing more of on Twitter right now. Like I saw he had just a nasty one-handed catch earlier today. Supposedly he hasn't dropped a ball in training camp. Someone was keeping that stat. I guess he only had 2 drop passes his entire time at Utah, which I didn't know. So, and then another one from some beat writers was his route running ability is reportedly elite, and through 4 practices, it looks like he'll have a big role in the offense. I know we've been hurt before on kind of rookie tight ends and expecting big things, but is there any reason in your mind that Dalton Kincaid can't be a top 10 tight end like year 1?
No, I'm still smashing Dalton Kincaid.
Same.
I'll be honest, I don't have enough shares. I wish I had more because I just feel like they're going to use him. He's a good player. He obviously clearly catches the ball really well. His hands are super good. I did not know that either, that he only dropped the ball twice in college. So that's pretty damn impressive in my opinion. And just every time, like you said already, every time I open up Twitter, I see videos of him. And You know, it's hard not to get like too excited, but really he looks really, really good. And they have from day one, they've said they want to use him. And so I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to be really good. I think he's going to he's going to put in, like, he has a really good quarterback. And I think he's going to put up some good numbers. And I think he kind of settles in around, tight end 9 or 10.
Same. I think so too. I think so right now, just from like a dynasty perspective, kind of fast forwarding a year, I have him as my tight end 8 right now. I kind of imagine he's going to have an excellent year. Travis Kelce's getting older. Kyle Pitts looks like he's dying out there. Dalton Kincaid could very easily be like a top 3 or 4 tight end this time next year. But it's the problem I have too is that like you can't buy him right now because the hype train is just out of control, and it's probably just going to go up. And he's already like, I mean, it's hard to acquire these top tight ends in tight end premium leagues. So I think if you had him already, I think you might have hit the lottery. And if you didn't, it's going to suck just watching him. So
now is not the time to buy him. Just if you don't have him, you're going to miss out. I'm sorry. And honestly, what I was going to say is I've seen some recent startups that he's going like tight end 4, tight end 5. Yeah. Right. And I think, like you said, I think that's kind of where he's going to be at the end of the year going into next year. Right. If you're doing a startup like next summer, I think that's going to be kind of where he's going to be going. And you're going to need to get him in like between the 4th and 6th round, especially in a tight end premium league.
For sure. All right. Well, I think we said it all tonight. Hopefully next week, Ron will be back with us. Make sure that you like the show. If you liked it, comment down below. Let us know like what you want to see, what you want to talk about, what we got right, wrong. Subscribe to Dynasty Theory YouTube channel. Subscribe to our podcast feed. We'll see you next time. Peace out, guys.
Peace.
And I was not ready on the button, so this is my bad. JP's going to be mad. Bye.